Okay, so let's get going then. Thank you all for attending. Apologies, we'll run through the agenda as per item 34, apologies and reasons given. I believe we have 2 apologies with acceptable reasons.
Yeah, we have a proposer, Councillor McNally, Councillor Penny.
Yeah.
Opposed?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All agreed? Yeah.
Item 35, declarations of interest. To receive any declaration of interest in accordance with the requirements of Localism Act 2011, to consider any requests for dispensations in respect of pecuniary or non-pecuniary interest in the agenda items. Does anyone have any conflicts of interest or
Well,
declarations?
I should for 39 because that was put forward by 2 of my neighbours and I actually live on the road as well.
So for number 39.
Yeah, for the speeding on Jekyll's Bank.
Okay. Any others? Any proposal there?
No, we don't need to.
Okay, so item 36, meetings of the previous meeting, to re-note the meeting of the 24th of August 2021 as minutes. Have we all had a chance to read those, and are there any comments?
No.
Okay, proposal for those minutes then, please, Isabel. Seconded.
Is all agreed?
All agreed?
Yes.
Thank you.
So,
Okay, so item 37, planning applications. We'll come to that in a second. From there.
initial.
Yeah.
22nd.
That's my local projects, we're very writing.
Signature. Mm-hmm. That's very important.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, on to item 37, planning applications. We've got a number of applications on the list that we haven't looked at, including some that were submitted by email. They have now been updated to the log. Items are H09885-21, a proposed conservatory park retrospective on Farrow Road. H090930-21 solar panels at DMG Growers Roman Bank. H09-0931-21 erection of a domestic shed. H09-0976-21 2 single-storey flat roof extensions, Holby Grove Gate. I believe we haven't had any comments or objections on any of those. Okay. We need to deal with the checkers one, the H09090921, use of land at the rear of the Checkers Hotel in High Street, Holbeach. I believe there has been some councillor comments and objections on that, as well as receipt of a letter from the Lincolnshire Fire and Rescue Service objecting to those. So that I think constitutes an objection on the grounds of the Fire and Rescue Service that we can put through on the board. Any further comments on those applications?
There's one more.
Is there, sorry?
It's post 0306, demolition of dining room.
Oh, sorry, apologies, yes. H09-0306-21, demolition of a dining room at the Bullock Conservatory. So those 7 planning applications. Are there any other comments on those?
No.
Can I have a proposer?
Yes, please.
Second.
Has everybody agreed?
Thank you. So moving on to item 38, emergency planning. Jan, I believe we've got an update on that.
Yes, read the training. I've spoken again to LCC. They're still waiting to restart the emergency training after COVID. But they're now saying it's been pushed out to district councillors, so they've given me a contact at South Holland to call, which I will be chasing up this week.
Okay. Any questions on that? Obviously, as soon as we get the details from district, we can progress that. So maybe to defer that to the next meeting if we get it. Okay, agenda item 39, speeding. Just a small update from me. The SID is, as some of you may have seen, by the Mitsubishi Garage on Station Road. Indeed, I followed a 4 through there this evening, and he did 40. I have submitted a request to TRO at LCC for a speed survey on Joy's Bank, Horwich and John. Also, a TRO request to do a speed survey between Horwich Road Gate and Sheppey Stowe on the 1168 and 1166 respectively. Also received an update from Links Road Safety Partnership. They, in conjunction with Village Police, have launched Project Edmund, which is a county-wide speed watch initiative. More to come on that over the next weeks and months, I imagine. And with the request in Joy's Bank, I realised that we haven't got a location there for the SID, so I'm going to go around the remaining sites that we've had advised by parishioners, our PCSO, etc., to work out whether we can apply for further sites for the SID around the parish that will reflect concerns in those areas to enhance visibility. So that's something I'll be doing next month. So to item A on that, to discuss and agree to recommend a speed reduction on Jekyll's Bank.
This is the western part of Jekyll's Bank, between the main part of the village and going towards Cranesgate South. At present it's 60, and it was one day last week, a large transit van came hacking down and ended up in the ditch on the other side. And my neighbour across the road from me had a car end up in her front garden, actually hit the front of her house. Some lads mucking around, I think. And also the farmer down Little Dog Drove. It's a nightmare coming out with his farm traffic on that part. And Nuts Lane as well, the visibility is rubbish. Whether they would consider reducing it to 40 or extending it out.
Okay, the process for that is, as I've done with the TROs mentioned earlier, we can write to TRO people and request that they do the relevant surveys.
Problem being it's 60-mile-an-hour limit, and there are not going to be many people doing over 60, which is probably all they're interested in, isn't it?
And until they do their necessary surveys and work out what the 85th percentile speed along that stretch is, they can then determine out of the policy which is the most appropriate speed limit for it. I think you'd be surprised at the number of people who probably do more than 60 down there. That's the piece of road that goes past the airfield, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
And that's a very, very narrow bit of road.
Not particularly well serviced.
A lot of the, I think they're probably Royal Mail lorries that come from the nursery on Joy's Bank that are taking the order by post, whatever, come along there, hacking along there. If they meet a tractor coming the other way, there's just not enough room.
Okay, so the request is to discuss and agree to recommend a speed reduction on Jekyll's Bank. Do we have a proposal for that? And second, all agreed? Excellent. To support that, if you could get those two parishioners to write to you, describe the issue, what I can then is I can redact their names and use that to send off along with it. A good example is for Horwich Drove, I've got a petition of 49 parishioners, which I've sent off again in support of. It shows that it's not just one or two individuals, it's actually a community thing that
I mean, unfortunately, there are only 4 properties along that part of Jekyll's Bank. But yes, I would speak to it.
I have to say that on that one, I've actually seen wild animals have been the cause of accidents down there as well.
We get
Deers,
muntjac
muntjacs.
deer, and one was actually.
And if you're
not-
doing 60, the deer doesn't stand a chance and you don't stand a chance.
Pheasants, mate.
There was one not.
Yes,
not
they
there.
really take your radiator out.
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. On to item 40, properties.
Yeah, item A is to discuss Office 5, which is the one immediately across. We have been given notice by the tenant. Obviously, you were aware that all of the leases were coming up to the end anyhow. They're all due for renewal early part of next year. They have given notice. They have already moved out, but are continuing obviously to pay their rent up until the end of the lease. It's really a matter now of, obviously, we're going to be looking to fill that room in some way, shape or form. If we can fill it prior to the end of the lease, then obviously we will be looking at releasing the levelling. So it's really, are we in agreement to do that process if we find somebody to take it over?
I'm sure she'd be happy to release from the lease early if we can
Yes.
indeed fill, so it
Yes.
seems a very pragmatic way to go forward. Yeah, any other comments?
We have got somebody interested in a room, but we're not quite sure what size. So it may be that we might be having a little bit of a jiggle, but as all of them are all coming to the end of their lease, it may be a little bit of a move around time.
Okay. So the proposal is to look for a new tenant for Office 5, and if they wish to move in earlier, to release the existing occupant from the lease earlier. Do you have a proposal for that? No. It's a discussion, sorry. I shall learn every second. So do we need to take that forward to the council? Is that an agreement item?
I
we need
think
to have?
if, once we have somebody that is wanting
Yeah.
property, then we can put that to
Right,
council
okay.
for agreement.
Right, thank you very much. And item B?
Item B, obviously land registry, we did discuss this. We have now got some costings in. And as you'll see further down, we have allowed for that in budgeting. It's really early for an update, to be honest, so you can see what they are looking at cost-wise. Obviously, we're still trying to sift through what paperwork we already have, so that we can let whoever is dealing with it have absolutely everything that we've got. But it's a process that is time-consuming. So, but they do vary a bit, but they're not way out really. And it may be that not necessarily the cheapest is going to be the best if one of them has got more knowledge of our history, if you see what I mean.
But the thing that worries me there is this thing that says plus disbursements
Yes,
and.
yes.
Is it possible we can get an understanding of what the level of disbursements might be and what the land registry fees would be?
I think land registry fees depend on the estimated value, so that's
Yeah.
one thing. And disbursements is like,
Depends on how much
Work
they have
is
to dig
involved.
into things.
So in terms of budgeting, would it be wise to maybe add, say, a factor on top?
We have done.
Top.
The other thing is, obviously, the more information we can give them, the less likely we are to have extra charges.
Yep.
So that's why we're trying to find as much paperwork as we possibly can before we instruct. And once we've found that paperwork, then we may be able to get a much firmer figure as to what they are considering as the fee.
Okay, good. So we'll be going, ultimately it's down to us then to get whatever we can collect together off to the people, and then we'll get a further quote back from them that we can then use to budget and then instruct them as necessary. Okay. Anything else on properties?
No, nothing to update.
Okay, lovely. We'll move on then to item 41 to discuss budget requirements for 2022-23. I believe a series of emails have gone out and around about properties and speeding and anything to do with the committee's proposed budget for next year. They're all on the drive. Any points to discuss, things to raise?
Only from my point of view, I did have an informal conversation, obviously with the Chair of Finance, when I was here doing my events around property budget, which is in the drive for anybody to look at. The key ones are in there. Obviously, we've allowed for the work with the land registry, and we've put quite a significant sum into that because it's an unknown factor. Also, you'll notice there's asbestos surveys and things like that, because any commercial property we have should have one. So we've got to allow for that. And we've also put in a little bit of extra in there for things like council tax, because if a property's sitting empty for a period of time, then we're going to have to pay some council tax. But pretty much it's on a par with what we normally have in the budget. There is a little bit of extra here and there been put in, but no major projects for next year.
The items there at the bottom are looking at traffic and speeding. Obviously, I've put an allowance there, £500 for the second SID. That's obviously also subject to discussion at the next finance meeting. I've put an amount in there for speedwatch training. It's something I'm working with. There's a lady, Jan, I think her second name, deals with speedwatch initiatives around Lincolnshire. They can provide free training, but there may be a need for us if we want to buy extra Humvees and the guns and bits of bobs should we get speedwatch going in the parish. Every time I get a parishioner write to me about a speed issue, if it is below 40 miles an hour, I do suggest that they might want to set up a speedwatch group, or at least become part of the speedwatch group. Usually it gets responded by groans and people backing away quite quickly, as you'd expect. But nonetheless, I thought to have money in there to provision should somebody go, you know what, yeah, we'll do it. We've got the budget there to do it. I need some more SID mounting plates. The ones that we bought earlier in the year have filled the gaps that I found on that first audit. And obviously, as I mentioned, we've got surveying out to find more locations. We will need to do that. I don't propose to put a SID mounting plate in every location. For example, I've got 4 locations in Holwich St John, but I've got 1 plate down there. I moved the plate with the SID. It just makes it more efficient. They're £60 each as well. So over time, we'll build a report and we'll build a part of those up. There's £500 in there for a laptop. As I mentioned in our last meeting, at the moment, the software that downloads the data is on my machine at home. Works very well. It's just on my machine at home, and the data is there, and I will be uploading it to the drive. If we have a council own something, then it goes with the SID, and it's available at all.
How many devices can it go on?
1.
Oh.
It's basically a little Bluetooth receiver that plugs in, and it's the same as you literally plugging it into the back of a PC. I just use the Bluetooth adapter. There is a serial cable for it as well. But no, it's a single device use, unfortunately. On my audit of the SID locations over the year, I noticed that a lot of the temporary speedy reminder signage, firstly either were dulled, I got some which, or it was broken, or it was just missing. All that was left was the wire ties that strap them on. Obviously they get beaten by wind and quite often they get attacked by people, so we need to replace some of those. And there's some money at the bottom there. In some locations this year I've found there is no suitable location to mount the SID other than BT's telegraph posts, and to get permissions to do that is quite challenging. I have asked the council in Crowland now, because on Postal Road in Crowland they have strapped their SID to a telegraph post. I've asked them what process they had to go through and how torturous and long with it, because if that is easier than putting extra posts in, it's going to be cheaper for us. But I thought putting that in there, that's budget for 4 posts. Apparently they cost about £3 each, LCC, to put in, but they asked for a parish donation of around £600 per post. So they're the items that I put in there.
Could I just ask a question? The signage that was in the safe, did you take all that away?
Yes.
So that's all out there.
I think there's still some 40 mile an hour
Is there?
Is that
I know
okay?
there was some in there, so
Oh,
it might be
I-
worth a look, just to
Yeah,
make
well,
sure.
perhaps do that after the meeting,
And also just,
if you like to say.
just a thought, the old laptop we
Yes,
have,
we've got
would
another.
we utilise that for your data?
Certainly, I'm more than happy to
If we can
consider
get it cleaned down and sorted, then that would be the most sensible
Yeah.
solution, because we've already got it.
Oh, good grief, so something there, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm all for reuse. That's brilliant. Okay, any other comments on budget there?
You just need to put an amount in for emergency planning fund.
Okay, so emergency planning fund, do we have an idea as to what that's going to cover?
Wellies for all the windows out of the floor.
Okay, so it's covering things like wet weather gear, Wellingtons, facilities for that team.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, I think we'd need more, you'd potentially need more signage, you'd potentially need more high vis, because
Mhm.
actually, I think we've got about 20 of them in.
Mhm.
So we probably would need some more. I mean, we don't really know, do we, what we're going to need?
Yeah.
but I would
So
have thought-
signage in terms of this sort of temporary sort of flexi-board signage or...
Expensive. Yeah,
we're not talking sort of metal signage as in roadwork type stuff.
yeah.
So I don't know if we put notionally in there, I've got £600-700, so
That's what I was thinking, about 500.
Yeah, 500-600, something like that.
Thank you.
anything else we need to cover from that? So obviously property rents and rents could be relevant
Everything's in
too.
there.
Yeah, they won't change.
Yeah, that's puts it at nearly 8,000 more than the previous year.
Okay. But we're doing more. You know, we've set up an emergency fund, we're doing more on the speeding side, we're doing, we've got land registry stuff, so we can justify why we're looking to spend more money. because
Emergency
we're trying to-
training alone is to get that set up this year.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the thing with about budgets is you can ask for as much as you want, as long as you can justify why you're asking for it so that it demonstrates benefits to the people at the receiving end, you've got a better chance of getting money. So, okay. Fine. If everyone's done that, we'll move on to item 42, items for discussion and next agenda item requests. So do we have any items for the next meeting? In which case, if I can ask for any items to be...
Just one point. There were two crashes last Monday, not yesterday, this Monday, the Monday before, on the junction of the main road into Holbeach and Ravensbank.
Yes, I'm aware of those.
Yes, because I had to detour round.
Yep.
There used to be a sign as you were approaching from Holbeach, a flashing sign that came up with slow down. I know there are some fixed signs at the side of the road which actually say slow down going that way, but coming the other way they're not. It's an awful junction as well.
Yeah, that's the slightly staggered one, isn't it?
It is,
Between
yeah.
St John's and Holwich, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, there's Saturday Bridge, I believe, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Saturday Bridge.
Yeah, it closed off, because I actually got diverted on that as well.
Yeah, you did, yeah.
So...
And that road was closed was closed when I came,
significant, I imagine.
and it was still closed when I came back from the meeting, so at least 2 hours.
So,
I suspect-
do we want to discuss that at the next meeting?
Signage at Saturday
And you
Bridge.
know, not frequently, but there've been cars that have ended up in the dike.
Is there anything we want to agree on that? We can discuss it. What do we want to have? Do we want to actually then to write?
To make a recommend, or to propose that we agree to write to Highways
Requesting a review of the signage?
Yes.
Yeah.
Request signage
Yeah.
at Saturday Bridge.
Requesting review of an appropriate level of signage at Saturday Bridge. Yeah. Okay. Lovely. Any other items immediately? Otherwise, could we get items as the clerk within the requisite time for the agenda for the next meeting then?
Yeah.
Okay. And date and time of the next meeting will be...
Can we just make sure that we do get it in the right position from the point of view of planning?
Yeah.
Because obviously this one has only been a week after the full council meeting,
Yeah.
hasn't it? So
Yeah.
we need to go into the following week, so it's always 2 weeks after.
So the next parish is on the 11th of October.
That would give you you either have to meet next Wednesday, the 29th, and then that would be 2 weeks
So, yeah,
later.
no,
and
I would just go
suggest-
straight, go
Straight
2 weeks
after.
after the.
26th, and that would be Tuesday, the 26th of October, is 2 weeks after the next week council.
1, 2, that's,
Yeah.
I've already put it
Ah,
there.
there we go, jolly good. So, yes, so 26th of October 2021, 6 o'clock at Cooper Chambers.